After everything this family has done for you, you're being utterly selfish. That's the text my mother sent my son when he refused to cancel his non-refundable graduation trip to babysit. What she didn't realize was that he was holding on to a secret paper trail, proof that she had stolen $15,000 from his college fund to give to my sister. He replied with just one single screenshot. Exactly an hour later, my sister called me crying. Her marriage was falling apart, and 10 years of hidden family lies completely exploded. My name is Chloe. I'm 28 years old, a single mother, and if there's one thing I've learned about family over the last decade, it's that loyalty is rarely a two-way street. For as long as I can remember, my mother, Eleanor, operated on a strict hierarchy. At the top of that hierarchy sat my older sister, Vanessa. Vanessa was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, whose every minor accomplishment was celebrated like a national holiday, and whose children were treated like royalty. And then there was me. I was the practical one, the daughter who worked a steady job, paid her own bills, and never asked for a dime. When I had my son Leo 7 years ago, I foolishly thought things might change. I imagined my mother stepping into the role of a doting grandmother, showering Leo with the same warmth and devotion she showed Vanessa's kids. I was dead wrong. From the day Leo was born, the dynamic became painfully clear. When Vanessa's children had a mild sniffle, my mother would drop everything, drive an hour across town, and stay for days to help. But when Leo was born, Eleanor stayed at the hospital for 20 minutes, checked her watch 3 times, and left because Vanessa needed help picking out throw pillows for her living room. As the years went on, the pattern only grew more cruel. Year after year, Leo's birthday would roll around. I'd send out the invitations months in advance, picking themes Leo loved: dinosaurs, superheroes, outer space. Every single time, my mother would promise she'd be there. And every single time, without fail, she would cancel at the last minute. It was always the same rehearsed excuses: a sudden migraine, an urgent business matter, or an unexpected plumbing emergency. But deep down, I always knew the truth. She simply didn't care enough to show up for my son. Leo was just a secondary thought in her world, a child sidelined in favor of Vanessa's perfect family. For 7 years, I swallowed my pride and made excuses for her, trying to shield my boy from the sting of her rejection. But you can only protect a child from the truth for so long before they start noticing the empty chairs themselves. Yesterday was Leo's 7th birthday. He'd been counting down the days on our kitchen calendar for months, his excitement practically radiating through the house. He wanted a space-themed party, complete with galaxy decorations, a rocket ship cake, and a mini planetarium set up in the backyard. I spent weeks planning every detail, working extra shifts at my accounting job to make sure everything was perfect. The one thing Leo asked for more than anything else was for his grandmother to come. "Do you think Grandma Eleanor will see my rocket cake?" he asked me every morning while eating his cereal. I couldn't bear to break his heart, so I reassured him. Eleanor had sworn to me on the phone just 3 days prior that she wouldn't miss it for the world. She told me she had marked it in bold red ink on her calendar and promised she'd be there right at 2 p.m. when the party started. By 1:45 p.m., the backyard was filled with Leo's friends from school, parents chatting, and music playing in the background. But Leo wasn't playing with the other kids. He was standing by the front gate, dressed in his little astronaut costume, holding his toy helmet, and staring down the driveway. Every time a car turned down our street, his eyes would light up, only to dim again when it drove past. 2 p.m. came and went. Then 2:30 p.m. At 2:45 p.m., my phone finally buzzed in my hand. It was a text from my mother. "So sorry, Chloe. I'm having a terrible headache and need to rest. Tell Leo happy birthday for me." My heart sank. I looked over at Leo, who was still standing by the gate, looking down the empty road. The disappointment on his face was agonizing. I swallowed the lump in my throat, walked over to him, and knelt down, trying to find a gentle way to tell him she wasn't coming. 10 minutes later, while setting out the juice boxes, I pulled up Instagram to post a picture of the cake. The very first story at the top of my feed was posted by my sister, Vanessa, just 5 minutes prior. It was a photo of my mother, sitting on Vanessa's patio, smiling brightly and holding a glass of iced tea. The caption read, "So grateful for Grandma stopping by to help us fold laundry and watch the kids today. Best surprise ever." Eleanor didn't have a migraine. She wasn't resting. She had deliberately skipped her only grandson's 7th birthday party to fold laundry at Vanessa's house. The next morning, I was still fuming. I hadn't confronted my mother yet because I was spending the evening comforting Leo, who had spent half the night asking what he did wrong to make Grandma dislike him. But Eleanor didn't even give me the chance to bring it up. At 10 a.m., my phone chimed with a message from her in our family group chat, which included me, Vanessa, and Leo, since I had gotten him a basic smartphone for school emergencies. Instead of an apology, Eleanor sent a message that left me speechless. "Chloe, Vanessa is planning an elite summer sports camp for her boys this year, but the deposit is quite steep. Since you didn't have to spend much on Leo's birthday yesterday, I expect you to transfer Leo's birthday gift money from his savings to Vanessa. It's only fair that family helps family." I stared at the screen in utter disbelief. She hadn't just skipped my son's birthday. She was actively trying to take his birthday money to finance my sister's kids. Before I could even type out a furious response, Eleanor followed up with another message directly targeting Leo. "Leo, after everything this family has done for you, you should be eager to help your cousins. Tell your mother to send the money over today." My blood boiled. The audacity was astounding. Everything this family has done for you? We had received zero support from her, financial or emotional, since the day Leo was born. I was about to call her and unleash 7 years of pent-up rage, but before my fingers hit the dial button, a notification popped up in the group chat. Leo had replied. He didn't write a long, angry paragraph. He didn't argue, yell, or throw a tantrum. Instead, my 7-year-old son uploaded a single image into the group chat. It was a clear, high-resolution screenshot of an official bank wire transfer document dated from 5 years ago. It showed a massive transaction attempt, a request to liquidate an untouchable, high-yield trust account and transfer the entire balance into Vanessa's personal account. The status of the transaction was marked in bold red letters: rejected, unauthorized attempt. At the bottom of the document was the name of the original account holder, the primary trustee, and the person who had attempted the illegal transfer. The room went dead silent. My jaw dropped. I had never seen this document in my life, but its implications were immediate and devastating. I stared at my phone screen in absolute shock, my mind racing to process what Leo had just sent. The document was an official audit record from my late father's estate bank. My dad had passed away 5 years ago, leaving behind what I assumed was a modest inheritance. What I never knew, what my mother had actively hidden from me, was that my father had secretly established a dedicated, locked trust fund specifically for Leo before he died. He knew how my mother favored Vanessa, and he wanted to make sure my son was protected and cared for no matter what. The screenshot laid out the cold, hard truth. Just 3 months after my father's passing, my mother, Eleanor, had taken the legal trust documents to the bank. Acting as an executor, she attempted to liquidate the entire $250,000 trust meant for Leo and wire it directly into Vanessa's personal account to pay off her credit card debts and buy a brand new SUV. Fortunately, my dad had anticipated her greed. He had appointed an independent corporate trustee alongside my mother, meaning no funds could ever be withdrawn or transferred without court approval and proof of benefit directly to Leo. The bank had flagged her attempt as an unauthorized breach of fiduciary duty, flatly rejecting the transfer and placing a permanent legal lockdown on the account until Leo turns 18. But that wasn't the only revelation hidden in the audit history attached to the document. The statement showed that over the past decade, my mother had been systematically draining a joint family emergency account, money that my father had explicitly left to be split 50-50 between Vanessa and me. Dollar by dollar, month by month, Eleanor had funneled nearly $180,000 directly to Vanessa under the guise of family support, completely erasing my half of the inheritance. I sat on the edge of my bed, tears of betrayal stinging my eyes, finally understanding why my mother had treated us like second-class citizens. It wasn't just preference. It was a deliberate, calculated effort to keep me in the dark while enriching Vanessa at my son's expense. As for how Leo got the document, my father's attorney had mailed a yearly trustee status report to our house, and Leo, curious after hearing my mother's demands, had simply snapped a picture of the paper sitting in my desk drawer. My 7-year-old son had just laid bare a decade of corruption with a single tap of his finger. Exactly 1 hour after Leo dropped that screenshot into the family group chat, my phone began to buzz incessantly on the nightstand. The caller ID showed Vanessa's name. I took a deep breath, braced myself, and swiped to answer. Before I could even say hello, Vanessa's voice came screeching through the speaker, breathless and completely hysterical. She wasn't just crying. She was hyperventilating. "Chloe, what the hell did you do?" she sobbed, her voice trembling with sheer panic. "You need to delete that image from the chat right now. Call Mom, fix this, tell everyone it was a mistake." "I didn't do anything, Vanessa," I replied, keeping my tone dead calm. "Leo sent that document. And as far as I can tell, it's not a mistake. It's an official record from Dad's bank." "You don't understand," Vanessa wailed. "Mark saw it." Mark was Vanessa's husband. He was a straight-laced, intensely honest corporate accountant who had always believed my mother's story, that Vanessa's lifestyle was funded by her own clever budgeting. He had been in the room when the group chat notification went off and had opened the attachment out of curiosity. Within minutes, Mark had put the pieces together. He realized that my mother had spent years trying to commit bank fraud to line Vanessa's pockets, and worse, he realized that Vanessa had known about the secret $180,000 drained from my father's joint inheritance. Mark was currently in their bedroom packing a suitcase, accusing Vanessa of being an accomplice to financial deception and threatening to file for separation. "He thinks I'm a thief, Chloe," Vanessa screamed, her hysterical cries echoing through the line. "He's talking about leaving me. How could you let your son post that? You're ruining my marriage. You're destroying this entire family over a stupid birthday party." Hearing her blame a 7-year-old child for the exposure of her own greed snapped something inside me. The passive, quiet daughter who had spent 28 years taking the high road died right then and there. "No, Vanessa," I said, my voice hardening like steel. "Your marriage isn't falling apart because of a birthday party. It's falling apart because you and Mom spent years stealing from my son and lying to everyone around you. You built your life on a foundation of lies, and now it's finally collapsing. Do not ever call my phone again." I hung up before she could utter another word, leaving her crying into the silence. Less than 20 minutes after I hung up on Vanessa, a violent knock rattled my front door. I opened it to find my mother standing on the porch, her face flushed red with rage, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She didn't even step inside before she began screaming at me. "Are you insane, Chloe?" Eleanor demanded, her voice echoing down the street. "Look at what you've done. Vanessa is on the verge of a divorce. Mark is threatening to leave, and my whole life is falling apart because you allowed your son to post classified family documents in a public chat. You get on that phone right now, call Mark, and tell him it was all a complete misunderstanding." I stood in the doorway, staring at the woman who had brought me into the world, feeling nothing but a profound sense of cold detachment. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Eleanor," I said, my voice steady and firm. "You tried to steal $250,000 from my son's trust fund. You drained almost $200,000 from my father's joint inheritance meant for both of your daughters, and you gave every single penny to Vanessa while treating my son like he was invisible. I did what I had to do to protect this family," she shrieked, refusing to take a shred of accountability. "Vanessa needed help. You were always independent, you had a good job, you didn't need the money. A good mother does whatever it takes for the child who needs it most. And what about my child?" I countered, stepping closer to her. "You couldn't even bother to show up to his birthday party yesterday. You lied to his face, told him you had a headache, and went to fold laundry at Vanessa's house instead. You treated him like garbage for 7 years, and then had the nerve to demand his birthday money to pay for Vanessa's kids." Eleanor opened her mouth to argue, but no sound came out. For the first time in 28 years, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes as she realized she no longer had any leverage over me. Here is what is going to happen, I said coldly. You are going to leave my property right now. If you ever contact me again, or if you ever come near Leo, I will take that bank audit directly to the state prosecutor and file formal legal charges for attempted fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. We are done. Without waiting for a response, I shut the door in her face and locked it, severing the bond once and for all. It took 4 months for the dust to finally settle. The legal process wasn't easy, but my father's attorney ensured that Leo's trust fund was placed under complete court protection, entirely out of Eleanor's reach forever. A full audit confirmed that while the inheritance money Eleanor had drained was gone for good, she could no longer touch a single cent meant for my son. As for the rest of the family, the fallout was absolute. Mark filed for divorce from Vanessa, unable to move past the years of financial deception and stolen inheritance. Vanessa had to sell her large house and downsize significantly, while my mother, isolated and shunned by the very community she tried to impress, lives alone in a bitter, quiet solitude. Neither of them has reached out to me or Leo since that day on my porch, and frankly, that is the greatest gift they could have ever given us. Cutting ties with your own mother isn't something anyone wants to do. For a long time, I felt a lingering pang of guilt, wondering if I could have handled things differently. But my therapist reminded me of a simple truth. Protecting your child from toxic people isn't a betrayal of family, it's your ultimate duty as a parent. Today, Leo turned 8. There was no waiting by the front gate, no staring down an empty driveway, and no tears over missing grandmothers. Our house was filled with his friends from school, laughter, and real people who actually care about him. Standing in the kitchen, watching Leo blow out his birthday candles with a massive smile on his face, I realized something important. We didn't lose a family that day a year ago. We simply cleared out the noise and made room for the people who truly matter. Leo is safe, happy, and surrounded by genuine love. For 28 years, I thought family was defined by blood, but now I know better. Family is defined by respect, honesty, and showing up when it counts. And for the first time in my life, our home is completely full.